It's a signaling system. It's on a molecular basis. I mean, this is happening on such a little basis, but you're right that it influences all these other systems in many ways, and if you want to give it an overriding purpose, it's to maintain balance. We are stressed on a daily basis, whether it be eating crappy food, processed food, too much sugar, too many chemicals, taking a lot of pharmaceutical drugs, pollution in the environment, whether it be our water, our air, and bacteria, viruses, fungus, physical stressors and injuries, any kind of stressors to the human body. This endocannabinoid system has a role in waking up our body and responding to these stressors. The researcher we had from Italy, Vincenzo Di Marzo, had coined a phrase a decade ago talking about the endocannabinoid system as we understood it then, and he said, the endocannabinoid system helps us eat, sleep, relax, protect, and forget. And when you think about that, it's like, yes, it does have a role on almost every system in our body. The eating, we know, it helps with the appetite, and it helps quell nausea and vomiting. An interesting finding that we learned about back in 2002 at our second conference that was held in Portland, Oregon, we had a researcher coming from Italy who talked about who's out of Raphael Mechoulam's lab, and Raphael Mechoulam is probably the leading expert in cannabis research. He's the researcher who first isolated THC back in 1964, or 64, about that time, and he's been doing research ever since. Well, anyway, what they found was that all mammals have anandamide, that first cannabinoid that we discovered back in 1992, that researchers discovered in 92. They've since learned that all mammals have anandamide in breast milk. All females have it in breast milk. Right. Sure. And they did a research, they did a study to see, well, what happens if you block that? And if you block that in the animals, in the rats where they did the study, if you block the anandamide, the babies die. If they blocked it initially right after birth. Then when they waited a day, if they waited a day on it, had a new litter, and then they let the mother feed for the first day, and then the second day they blocked the anandamide, those mice came out, half of them died, and the other half were smaller than the control group, the one that did not have the anandamide blocked. And they kept this up until 3 days. So if a newborn mouse got mother's milk for 3 days, and then the anandamide was blocked in mother's milk, they all survived. In other words, they got enough in the mother's milk to stimulate their suckling reflex, and so they would continue to nurse. But if that was not there, the babies died. And it's interesting because in Jamaica, and Dr. Dreyer, Melanie Dreyer, might have already talked about this, but one of the things in kind of folk medicine, so to speak, in Jamaica was the women often gave, one of the first things their babies received was a ganja, a cannabis tea, and they thought that it just helped the babies thrive. Well, if you think about it now, it was like giving the babies a little bit of extra cannabis, which would stimulate their suckling and, of course, make them hungry babies, or, babies with a big appetite, ready to suckle and eat or drink their milk. So, the more we learn about cannabis, it's just amazing and very, very important to life and health.
And I think that is becoming undeniable. I think that we are eventually going to be able to put the people who are keeping this from the public, I think we're going to be able to put them in a corner where they're not able to defend their position at all anymore.
Exactly. I think that's it exactly. And unfortunately, we invite all the time, the drug czar, we try to get any kind of debates or talk with them because, it's just so frustrating to hear these come out, and we know their lies. Even today, let's go today. Again, thinking of Mother's Day, how many mothers have their parents, their spouses, their children somehow serving the country in the military? So now we've got all these military out there serving our country, and unfortunately we've gotten into too many wars, and as we all are aware of now, it's been Iraq. We've gotten our troops out of there, but we've had a lot of troops suffer from combat in Iraq, and we've still got troops suffering in Afghanistan, doing extra long tours, more than a year, going back, some people going back for as many as 5 tours in Iraq or Afghanistan. But any of those veterans who are in the combat situation, it's extremely stressful. They come back, many of them come back with what they call TBI, traumatic brain injuries, where somehow they've suffered severe concussions or trauma directly to the brain. They come back with loss of limb, whether it be arms or legs from, the different devices they have, the bombs, roadside bombs, etc. And many of them come back with post-traumatic stress.
Yeah.
We have dropped the D. We don't like to call it a disorder since it is a natural response to extraordinary trauma. And so these guys are really suffering. And one of the physicians at our conference, Dr. Julie Holland, who's the author of the POT book, had made a statement that it looks like there's, for every casualty in the war, Iraq or Afghanistan, there have been 25 suicides by our veterans. And what we've learned is, as I said earlier, that cannabis helps us eat, sleep, relax, protect, and forget. The forgetting is a really big deal. Cannabis can be very, very helpful for people suffering from post-traumatic stress. It helps you move forward. It helps you sleep. It helps you keep from dwelling on the horrific event that took place. And people get post-traumatic stress from various ways. They can either be the agent, the person who kills, think of a soldier killing someone, and seeing, whether it be by artillery or whatever, that they have caused the death of one or many people. And you can imagine how horrific it is when you find out it was a civilian or something like that. Yeah. Or you can be a witness. Your buddy next to you just got blown to bits. Or you can, so you can be the agent, or, you can be the person doing it, or the witness, or you can be wounded yourself, the victim. You can be the victim that just lost your legs or lost whatever. So when you think of someone being raped, they certainly can suffer post-traumatic stress. When I think of a combat vet, and the ones that, in the situation today, the horrifying part about that is they have to keep going back. It's back the next day, and maybe it's going to happen again. Maybe they're going to get wounded this time if it was their buddy last time, or maybe this time they're going to be in a terrible firefight and there's just going to be bodies all over the place. It's a terrible way to live. You can't, and then you come back to the United States, and they're not the same. They can't be. They can't get these nightmares out of their head.
Of course not.
Research in Israel, again with Raphael Meshulam's lab, they've been looking at this, and they've done some clinical trials of cannabis for veterans. Excuse me. We know it from the veterans' reports how much it helps them. But they did a study, and they could see that yes, indeed, the soldiers getting the cannabis do much better than other soldiers who are given the usual psychotropic medications to manage their post-traumatic stress. And the problem with post-traumatic stress is so many different, once you've been traumatized to that degree, your body literally reacts differently to stress than the normal human body. For let's call us normal humans, when something horrific happens, we have the fight or flight response. The adrenaline kicks in. You might hear about it, like a bear's after a child. Mom's going to be ferocious enough to, get in there and be willing to fight back, or a car is on top of a child and somebody has the strength to lift it up to help the kid out. I mean, amazing things can happen when you get this huge shot of adrenaline. Well, in a combat situation, it's a survival mechanism. They need to respond. They need that adrenaline to respond and be on alert and fight for their lives at all times, never knowing when something's going to pop up. And this goes on over and over. So when they get back to the States, their body now is different. So something that might be an irritation to any of us literally sets off an action in their body that their adrenaline, that their whole body is ready to respond in full fight or flight mode. It's hard to imagine, but that's, in seeing the veterans, it's why they have such an extreme startle response. How the rage can get out of control. And it's not that they're bad people, but physiologically from all of this trauma, they're really having a hard time maintaining any kind of balance. Cannabis helps quiet all of this down, helps them sleep, helps them forget those horrific memories, and they live. I mean, we've literally seen that cannabis can mean life or death for patients.
Absolutely.
If it's taken away, I mean, they die. And that's it's just totally crazy. Now, the Veterans Administration, to an extent, recognizes that cannabis is helpful.